Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 16.1 is finally here and available to the public. If you were able to install iOS 16, you'll have this update available when you go to your software updates and check for an update. And this particular update could be pretty large depending on which version you're coming from. If you're actually coming from the betas, it'll be a very large 5 gigabytes plus, so it could take some time to install. But once you install it, you'll have some nice features we've waited for since iOS 16 was announced. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's new. Now with iOS 16, we had the battery percentage, but it was missing on some phones. Apple has added that to the remaining phones where it was missing. So the iPhone XR, iPhone 11, iPhone 12 mini, and 13 mini can now add the battery percentage. Under battery settings, turn on battery percentage, and now you'll have that here. So if you want to use the battery percentage in the little battery icon in the upper right, you can now do that. Also, if we go back to settings, go under battery again, under battery health and charging, there's a new option in some regions. You'll see it says clean energy charging. It says in your region, iPhone will try to reduce your carbon footprint by selectively charging when lower carbon emissions electricity is available. iPhone learns from your daily charging routine so you can reach full charge before you need to use it. So that's something they've added. Again, that's region specific. It's not available everywhere. And if you don't want to use it, you can just turn it off or leave it on. It's up to you. Now, something they've added that we've wanted for a long time that was promised with iOS 16 is iCloud Shared Photo Library. Again, that's found in settings, or you can see that in your photo settings. But if you tap on your name at the top, then tap on iCloud and you'll see apps using iCloud. Tap on Photos, and if you scroll down, you'll see Library, Shared Library. You can now share your iCloud photo library with friends, family, or significant others, or really anyone else that's in your family group that you have set up on your iPhone. So if we go into that, if you scroll down to options, you'll see we have shared library suggestions and sharing from camera. You can also have it delete notifications, where it says receive regular notifications when other participants delete content you added. So you can control permissions as well. And within the camera, when you have the option enabled, you'll now have a new icon with two little people here. You can now have it automatically share with that shared iCloud photo library. So if you want to share, turn that icon on, turn it off when you don't, and it will go into your personal library. There's also additional settings in your photos for that as well. If we go into photos, you'll see today's wallpaper, of course, linked in the description. And if you have shared iCloud photo library enabled, you'll have a new icon in the upper right. Tap on it, it's got a little person, and it says move to shared library. If it's already shared to your library, you can move it back to your personal library. Tap the three dots in the upper right and you have similar options as well to move it to your shared library. If we go back to an album, again, go into the same menu, we now have the option to view both libraries, view only our personal library, our shared library, and also enable a badge for shared libraries so that we can see which ones are shared or not shared. So you have all of those options now if you have that enabled. Now, live activities is something we've been waiting for a long time, and it's enabled in 16.1. Now, it does require the third-party app to update the app to allow it to use live activities, and Apple showed an example of showing sports on your lock screen while you can just watch the sports scores change throughout the day if you're unable to watch a game. This is enabled in different apps, such as the clock app. It's the only thing that Apple has it enabled in, but if we swipe home, you'll see here, if we go to the lock screen, it's showing here. There's one other third-party app I can share that shows this as well, and this is called iEvent Timer. And within the app, you can create a custom event. So for example, if we swipe home, it goes up to the dynamic island, and you'll see that we have a live activity for our new event. So this will be available for more and more apps as they're updated. So we should see more of that very soon. Now also, if the app does support live activities, there'll be an option for it in settings. So if we go down to that same app, we'll go down to iEvent Timer. You'll see it here. We have an option for live activities. You can disable it if you don't want it to show on the lock screen, or keep it enabled if you want to see that information. Now, when you take a screenshot in iOS 16.1, go into the screenshot and tap Done. They've changed the way the menu looks. So in the upper left is where it shows up now. It says Save to Photos, Files, Copy and Delete Screenshot. Before, it was at the bottom. So if we hit Done on the previous version, you'll see it was at the bottom with the same options. Now it's in the upper left. left with a menu that sort of fits everything else in iOS 16. With the iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max, Apple added the dynamic island. If you have a dark wallpaper set like this one where it's completely black at the top, you can't see the dynamic island. So Apple has updated that with iOS 16.1. If we go into Music, press play, swipe home so it goes to the dynamic island at the top, it will now have an outline that sort of matches the color of the app. So you can see here there's music. If it's the phone, it will actually be green. And if we go into the clock, set a timer, swipe home, it's got an orange outline around it. That allows you to see it when you have a dark wallpaper set. If it's not dark at the top, you won't have the outline. Something else they've added with the dynamic island has to do with reachability. With the previous updates, you couldn't interact with different content in the dynamic island. If you pull down to bring down reachability so you can reach the top of your screen, you enabled that, go into your content, and it now works as expected. So again, if we go back, go into Music, or again, just press and hold, it will bring open the media player as well. So that's something they've updated that works properly. They actually mention as a bug fix. If we go over to the Fitness app, Apple has updated this so that you can now use Fitness Plus even if you don't have an Apple Watch. So if maybe you don't want to pick up an Apple Watch, you just don't like it, you don't want to wear something on your wrist, you can now use Fitness Plus, subscribe right on the phone, and use all of the different workouts directly from the phone. This allows you to use it not only on your iPhone, but your iPad or Apple TV or any of those. So you'll be able to use that directly from here and then go through all of the different workouts if you want to use them. Within Apple Wallet, something Apple's enabled with 16.1 is key sharing. You can share a car key, a hotel room key, and other keys in Wallet using messaging apps. So you can use WhatsApp or iMessage and share that key to someone else so that they can use it. Also, they've enabled the option for a high-yield savings account. This is something they announced in Apple Newsroom a little while ago, where it says Apple Card users will be able to grow their rewards in Apple Wallet by automatically depositing their daily cash into a new high-yield savings account from Goldman Sachs. So this should be available in certain regions that have Apple Wallet and should be available today or very soon, if not already, since they mention it directly. You also have the option to completely delete the Wallet app if you don't want to use it. Tap on Remove App, tap Delete, and you'll now have the option to delete it once you remove any of your cards in settings. So that's something they've updated and is now available to do with 16.1. Now, if we go over into the Books app, within Books, if we go into maybe the iOS 12.3 user guide, you'll see we have our options down here in the bottom. If we swipe through the different pages, we can read, of course, but you'll see that disappeared. Tap on the screen to bring back your options, and then you can go into your settings, change your content, search, and everything else. And as we continue to swipe through the book, it will actually disappear since we don't need it. So it's just a nice little touch they've added to make it more of a focused reading experience, just something they mentioned specifically. They've also added something significant in the Home app, which we'll see in a little while. Within Home, it now has support for Matter. Matter is a standard that's rolling out across many different devices, so not just iPhones, but Android phones and others, where it will just make things a little more standard across different devices. The new Apple TV supports Thread support, and so they're really making this more of a standardized thing since it's been sort of confusing to use different apps across different devices. So hopefully that will get much better very soon now that we have full Matter support. Now, Apple also released iPadOS 16 or iPadOS 16.1 as they're calling it, as well as macOS Ventura. I'll have separate videos about everything new in both of those, as those are significant upgrades and the first major upgrades this year for both iPad and Mac. So be sure to check out those other videos. Now, Apple has also fixed some bugs with iOS 16.1. The first thing they've fixed has to do with messages. So any deleted messages, so you may have deleted a conversation, sometimes it would appear in the main conversation list. So if we go into messages, within messages, we have our lists here if you have that enabled, and you have all messages, known senders, unknown senders, and unread messages, and then also recently deleted. Sometimes you would delete it and it would show back up in messages. That has been resolved and shouldn't do that any longer. Also, they've fixed something to do with CarPlay. CarPlay has been a bit of a pain with iOS 16, and apparently it was related to VPNs. So if you're using a VPN app, sometimes it would fail to connect. So CarPlay should be much better in this update, and that should be resolved if you were using a VPN. Something they've also fixed that they didn't mention specifically has to do with the startup sound. On iPhone 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max, there's now a startup sound when you turn on your phone. That's enabled in settings, and then under accessibility, scroll down until you see audio/visual, and then you have power on and off sounds. This was a bit buggy before, where you would turn off the phone, you'd hear the sound, then you'd turn it back on and it wouldn't make any sound whatsoever. That has been resolved in this update. They haven't mentioned it specifically, but it's something that actually works now. Now, there are additional bugs that they haven't fixed. You may have already noticed where I swipe home, it's a little bit stuttery from time to time. So that's something I'm seeing over and over. It doesn't affect performance, but it is something that seems to be an issue with this. They haven't resolved it 100% yet, and I've had others report this to me. So if you see that, it's not unusual. Some people are seeing it as maybe we'll play a song again, swipe home, you'll see it just stuttered there again. That's something I'm seeing over and over that needs to be resolved. So there are still some bugs. There will always be software bugs that they'll need to update. Now, also there's security updates, and it takes some time after the update is released for those security bugs to show. But I'll link to the security website in the description, and you can see that by going to Safari. And within Safari, if we scroll down, you can see the recent security updates. This will be updated usually within a couple hours on the website with all of the latest updates, iOS 16.1, iPadOS 16.1, and so on. So it does take some time for them to update this, but there will always be security updates, even if they don't mention specific ones. Now, there's some features that are not available yet with iOS 16.1, and for iPhone 14s, we still don't have satellite connectivity. This is something that the groundwork of the code is there, but it's just not yet in the update. So that's something that will be coming soon. And also something else that will be coming very soon is Freeform. Freeform is a new collaboration tool that should be built in. It says it's a productivity app where you and your collaborators can bring ideas to life, and everything is in real time. This is not yet available and will be with a future update. And speaking of future updates, I would expect iOS 16.2 betas, whether that be this week or maybe next week. At this point, we just don't know when that will release, but usually we'll move on to 16.2 betas, and then we'll have some updates there as well. Apple continues to update this throughout the year until we get to the next version of iOS 17. Of course, overall performance I've shown you is quite fast, ProMotion is quite good, and I really haven't had any issues other than that odd stuttering I've shown you already. The overall heat of the device seems to be pretty normal, no big differences there, and also battery life, depending on who you ask, is either the same as before or better. Some people will have worse battery life, but you need to give it a few days as it does have to compile and fix a lot of things in the background. Rearrange photos, for example. It does sometimes scan photos as you're maybe sharing libraries and things like that. That can take some time, indexing and more. So just keep that in mind. And so if you're wondering if you should install iOS 16.1, absolutely, for the security updates and those bug fixes and additional features. This is the first major update, so I would definitely recommend it. It should fix most bugs that people were having. So that's everything with iOS 16.1. Now, if there's anything else I didn't mention that you've found, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And of course, I'll have a follow-up about this, how it's been over the next few days. Now, of course, be sure to check out the iPadOS 16.1 videos and macOS Ventura videos that I'll have available soon if you're not seeing them already. If you have any other questions, though, I'll try to get back to you in the comments, and I'll hang around the comments usually for about an hour or so after the video, and then check back every few days. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.